Welcome to 5 Good Minutes. You're listening to today's inspirational message on the book of Mark with Brady Randall.
We are continuing in the Mark chapter 1 Good News podcast today, and we are looking at the response to the good news that Jesus is bringing. And today we pick up with Jesus' command of his followers to fish for people. And this is what we read in Mark 1, verses 16 to 20. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. "Come and follow me," Jesus said, "and I will send you to fish for people." At once they left their nets and followed him. And when he had gone a little farther, he saw James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John in a boat preparing their nets. Without delay, he called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired men and followed him. Now, I've always had a love-hate relationship with fishing. I don't suppose you could say that I like fishing as much as I like catching. But my perspective on fishing changes when I do catch a fish, or when I can share that excitement in the life of my son in particular. I don't know too many people who love fishing as much as my son, and his greatest joy, one of his greatest joys in life, is reeling in a fish. And he loves it when I or my dad are there to be with him and share in that joy in the moment. There's more joy when we share in that together. And fishing for people is the analogy that Jesus uses for making disciples. A disciple is simply a learner, a follower of Jesus. And it's his chosen method for getting the greatest message of all time into the world. And I want you to note that he doesn't say it's optional. He says, "Follow me and I will make you to fish for people." In other words, it's part and parcel of following Jesus. If you follow Jesus, you therefore will also fish for people. And if you push the fishing analogy further, I think that this is part of what that means. And to fish for people means, first of all, to follow Jesus ourselves. It's almost impossible to give away what we don't have ourselves. And if you're not a follower of Jesus, or maybe you're still exploring faith, or you're listening to this podcast and you're unsure about Jesus, one of the reasons may be because of other Christians and the way that we act, and sometimes our hypocrisy. So the first part, though, is following Jesus. And if you're a follower of Jesus, I want to ask you, as I want to ask myself, is there anything in your life or mine that could only be explained by God himself? Is it evident that I follow Jesus if that's what I claim to do? And why would anyone want to follow the God or Jesus that I say I know? And again, I'm not an expert fisherman, but I know that a good fisherman goes where the fish are. They offer compelling bait and are filled with joy at the catch. And the compelling bait is simply the good news of what Jesus has done and is doing. It's the best news on planet Earth. And if you're already a follower of Jesus, you have a story. It's your story. It's a smaller story in God's grand narrative, but your story fits in there, as does mine. And I can tell you this, while it's amazing to finally catch a fish, there is nothing like being part of talking to someone, helping to point someone towards God, helping to help someone put their faith in Jesus for the first time. It's one of the greatest feelings in the world. And this is the fishing expedition that Jesus invites all of his followers into. You say, "Brady, I don't know the first thing about fishing, much less about fishing for people." And I know there's a lot of hesitancy. There is for me as well. Some of us would say, "I don't know enough information. I don't have enough time. I've got some doubts myself." But I want you to notice Jesus doesn't say, "I want you to fish for people only after you have it all figured out." When Jesus enlists people for his mission, he's simply asking for the willing, not those who have it all figured out, not for those who haven't blown it, but simply people who are weak and dependent on him, willing to obey by simply dropping down their nets, investing in doing the dirty work in real relationships. And as you do, Jesus is the one who ultimately provides the fish. We are part of catching them, but Jesus is the one responsible to clean them. And the simple math, by the way, of how this works, it blows me away. Did you know if you fish or invest in just one person in this new year, and that person does the same thing with one person, and that cycle of multiplication continues, that after a 20-year period, the impact that that can have is incredible. Over 1 million people in 20 years. So if you're willing to go fishing in this coming year, would you ask God to provide the catch? because it's a mission we'll never regret.
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.